Skybridge Walkway. Tonight we're going to visit a glass bridge suspended high above the clouds. A quiet place made just for wandering. It does not really go from one important place to another. It simply stretches out into the sky, so you can walk, look, and breathe. At grass level, the entrance to the Skybridge looks surprisingly ordinary. There is a low building of pale concrete and glass, with sliding doors that whisper open when you approach. Inside, the lighting is soft and indirect, tucked into recesses in the ceiling, so there are no harsh reflections. A simple sign on the wall shows a line rising from a little square to a long horizontal bar, like a child's drawing of an elevator going up to a bridge. The floor here is smooth stone, a gentle grey with little flecks that catch the light when you move. Somewhere behind the walls, you can hear machinery humming, a steady, patient sound that feels more like a cat purring than anything mechanical. A person at the reception desk scans your ticket and nods you toward one of the elevators without much fuss. Their voice is calm when they say, "Enjoy your walk," as though this is the most natural destination in the world. You step into the elevator, and the doors glide shut with a soft click. The elevator ride is quiet and very smooth. So smooth that it is almost hard to tell you are moving at all. A thin band of light traces itself up the corner of the car, showing your ascent in a slow, unhurried line. Through a narrow window in the door, you can see the interior walls of the shaft slipping past. Metal and cable, and the occasional glimpse of a service ladder. After a while, the grey gives way to brightness as the elevator reaches the level of the sky. There is a soft chime, not loud enough to disturb anyone, just enough to let you know you have arrived. The doors open, and a cool breath of air flows in, carrying with it the faint, clean scent of high altitude. A little like snow, and a little like rain. For a moment, you stand on the threshold between the enclosed elevator and the open walkway. Ahead, the glass of the bridge floor catches the light, broad and clear. Beneath that glass, far below, there is nothing but a slow blanket of cloud. The very first step onto the Skybridge is careful and deliberate. Even though you know the glass is strong, your body hesitates for a heartbeat before trusting it. Under your shoes, you feel the smoothness of the panels, almost like walking across still water that has been frozen flat. The railings on either side are made of metal that has been brushed to a soft sheen, not shiny, but gently reflective. When you place your hand on the rail, it is cool and solid, anchoring you to something that feels reassuringly weighty. The sides of the bridge are also glass from the waist up, so the view opens out to the horizon in every direction. It is like standing inside a clear corridor drawn across the air. Far below, the clouds shift and rearrange themselves, slow and heavy, as if they are enormous cushions being fluffed and patted into new shapes. Every now and then, a gap opens in the cloud cover, revealing a patchwork of land or the faint lines of a river. The sounds up here are gentle and distinct. The wind moves around the structure with a low, steady rush, more like a long sigh than a roar. Sometimes it threads itself through the cables above, making a soft humming tone that changes as the breeze strengthens or fades. Underneath the glass floor, where you cannot see, there is the muted vibration of support beams and stabilizers doing their work. Like a slow heartbeat, you can only feel through your feet. When someone walks past you, their footsteps make a clear, hollow tap on the glass, followed by a faint echo that runs ahead of them and then falls away. Now and then, a distant airplane leaves a white trail far, far above, so far that its sound never reaches you. Tiny speakers hidden in the handrails release a few quiet notes every so often. Simple chimes that seem to blend into the background instead of calling attention to themselves. The overall effect is of being on a still, floating platform with just enough sound to remind you that everything here is alive and functioning. You can stand for a long time, simply listening. About halfway along this section of the Skybridge, a side platform branches out like a small balcony. A woman is sitting there on a low bench, her legs crossed comfortably, a thick sketchbook resting on her lap. Her hair is pulled back in a loose bun, and a strand has fallen over her cheek, but she does not seem to mind. She is watching the clouds as they move under the bridge, her eyes following a slow swirl of white as it rolls and folds over itself. Every few moments, she lifts a pencil and adds a line or a shade to her drawing, hardly glancing down at the paper. Next to her on the bench is a small thermos and a cup with a lid, sending up a thin ribbon of steam when she opens it. The steam mixes with the cool air and vanishes almost instantly. A lightweight backpack leans against the bench by her ankle, its straps curled like the tail of a sleeping cat. When a draft of wind comes through and ruffles her sketchbook pages, she lays a flat palm over them, holding her place without irritation, then goes back to watching the sky. You leave the little platform and continue along the main walkway. The bridge extends in a straight line for a while, then takes a gentle curve, so gentle you almost do not feel it at first. The glass panels are arranged in sections, seams running across them every few meters, like soft grid lines. Each seam is fitted with pale silicone, smooth to the touch, ensuring there are no sharp edges to catch your shoes or break the rhythm of your steps. Embedded along the center of the floor is a faint strip of light, so subtle that it is barely visible in daylight. But you can see it now as a hazy line guiding your path. Outside the transparent walls, the clouds are beginning to change color as the sun lowers in the sky, shifting from clean white to gentle shades of peach and silver. Here and there, the top of a distant mountain pierces through the cloud layer, dark and solid, like islands rising from a soft sea of mist. The bridge seems to float between these peaks without touching any of them. You walk without a particular goal, simply following the stretch of glass as it leads you further into the open air. Beneath the bridge, on a lower maintenance track that you can only see when you step close to the side, a small inspection buggy is moving slowly along. It is no bigger than a suitcase, a compact rectangle with 6 stubby wheels that grip the narrow rail. As it rolls forward, a ring of little lights on its underside illuminates the metal beams and bolts beneath the glass, checking for anything out of place. A tiny antenna stands up from its top like a thin reed, vibrating slightly with each bump in the track. From time to time, the buggy pauses and a mechanical arm unfolds, touching a sensor to the glass or tightening a joint. The movements are precise and economical, with no wasted motion. There is no driver inside. It simply carries out its route, storing all its observations somewhere deep in its casing to transmit later. After a moment, the arm folds back in. The wheels turn again, and the buggy continues on its patient journey along the length of the bridge. Watching it, you feel a quiet reassurance in the steady, methodical care given to this place. Further along, the bridge widens into a rest area, a kind of glass pavilion that bulges gently outward over the clouds. Here, the floor panels are reinforced and arranged in a circular pattern, meeting at a central medallion etched with a simple compass rose. Around the edges of the circle are low benches attached directly to the transparent floor, their frames made of the same soft metal as the rails. A tall drinking water dispenser stands near one wall, its base bolted through to the structure below. Tiny droplets have formed on the outside of the tank, where the cool water meets the cooler air, and they slide down in clear trails before collecting in a shallow ring at the bottom. On one bench, a man in a bright orange jacket is slowly unwrapping a sandwich, the paper crackling very softly as he peels it back. Across from him, A child with a wool hat pulled down over their ears is crouched close to the glass, tracing little shapes on the surface with one fingertip. The marks disappear almost as quickly as they are drawn, leaving only a faint fog that fades back to transparency. Everyone speaks quietly here, as if the openness of the sky invites softer voices. When you step back out onto the narrower span, the light has shifted further toward evening. The sun hangs low, just above the horizon, turning the upper surfaces of the clouds into long streaks of gold and pale orange. The underside of the bridge's metal support cables catches this light, so that every line and curve glows softly against the deepening blue of the sky. Shadows lengthen across the glass floor as the beams overhead cast faint bars that move slowly with the sinking sun. If you look straight down now, the clouds are no longer flat. They have depth and layers, darker folds beneath lighter ridges, like carefully arranged layers of fabric. Through one large opening, you can see tiny lights far below, just beginning to appear in towns and along roads as evening comes on. The sight is distant enough that it feels abstract, a pattern of dots and lines, rather than a place you need to reach. You glance up again and see the first star emerging, pale and small, above the glowing edge of the world. The bridge keeps going, and you keep walking, your footsteps a steady pattern of quiet taps. A group of friends walks toward you now, from further along the span. They move at an easy pace, not in any hurry, their jackets unzipped and scarves hanging loose. One of them carries a camera on a strap, and every now and then he stops to take a picture of the way the clouds are lit from below. Another has a small portable speaker tucked into a pocket, but instead of music, it is playing a recording of gentle wind and distant chimes that mix so naturally with the real sounds around you that it is hard to tell them apart. As they pass by, you catch just a fragment of their conversation. Something about how the glass seems to erase the boundary between walking and floating. One of them glances down through the floor and laughs softly, pressing a hand against the rail as if to steady themselves, even though there is no real need. The others lean over to look as well, their faces reflected faintly against the transparent panels. Within a few moments, they have moved on, and their voices are carried away by the breeze. The silence that returns is not complete. It is filled with the ongoing sounds of air, structure, and sky. By the time night fully arrives, the Skybridge has changed character without changing its shape. The strip of light along the center of the floor brightens, resolving into a line of tiny embedded LEDs that glow with a soft, even white. The handrails light up from within, sending a gentle band of illumination along the path, without ever shining directly into your eyes. Out beyond the glass walls, the clouds are now dark masses, but their upper edges are outlined by the moon, which has risen while you were walking. It reflects on the surface of the glass floor in broken patches, broken again by your moving feet. The town lights far below are more visible now, forming clusters of brightness connected by thin strings of roadways. Overhead, the cables of the bridge disappear into the darkness, except where the structure's own lights catch them, giving them a subtle outline, like faint pencil marks on a black page. The whole walkway feels both more enclosed because of the pools of light and more exposed because of the darkness pressing close all around. Every so often, a bird from the high-flying flocks of the region crosses paths with the bridge. Now you see one standing on the outer edge of a support cable, not far above the line of the handrail. It is a large bird, perhaps some kind of gull that has learned to ride the updrafts that curl around a structure. Its feathers are mottled grey and white, ruffled slightly by the wind, and its webbed feet grip the rounded cable with easy balance. The bird occasionally turns its head, first to one side, then the other, its dark eye catching the glow from the bridge lights. When a stronger gust of wind arrives, it lifts its wings part way, adjusting to keep its place without taking off. From time to time, it lets out a brief, questioning call, and the sound is carried away almost immediately, disappearing into the open air. After a while, as if some signal has been given, it spreads its wings fully and steps off the cable. The bird glides down through the darkness until it vanishes into the layers of cloud below, leaving the cable bare once more. Near what feels like the farthest point, the bridge ends, not in a building or a doorway, but in a circular platform that simply stops in the sky. The glass here is in wide, sweeping arcs, meeting at a central disc where the floor has been frosted rather than left clear. On that frosted disc, simple lines are etched to mark the directions of north, south, east, and west. But there are no labels, only the geometry itself. Around the edge of the circle, low railings curve smoothly so that every direction looks equally inviting and equally unreachable. A few small information plaques are set into the handrail, not about where you could go from here, but about the height of the bridge above sea level, the typical depth of the clouds beneath, and the temperature of the air. A cushioned mat sits at the very center of the disc, inviting anyone who wishes to lie down and look straight up at the sky. Someone has left a folded jacket there as a pillow, its sleeves tucked neatly underneath to form a small ridge. This is a destination that is not a gateway. It is simply the farthest point for turning around. You step onto the central mat and lower yourself carefully onto your back. The glass underneath is firm and unmoving, but there is still a small, instinctive thrill in knowing that below it, the air drops away for such a long distance. Above, the stars have multiplied across the sky, some sharp and bright, others faint smudges that only appear when you let your eyes relax. The cables and beams of the bridge frame parts of this view, but they do not interrupt it. They are thin enough that the sky remains wide and continuous. You can see your breath clouding in the air above you in short, soft bursts before it disappears. Somewhere behind your head, along the curve of the platform, the quiet humming of the bridge's systems continues, a constant presence that you can almost ignore now. From further back along the walkway, the faint echo of footsteps approaches, then stops, then fades again, as someone else chooses a bench rather than the center. Time here is not marked by clocks or announcements, only by the gradual shifting of light and the changing pattern of clouds. Eventually, when you decide to rise, the glass is cool against your hands as you push yourself up to sitting. The walk back along the Skybridge feels both familiar and subtly new. Details that you did not notice before reveal themselves in the gentle lighting. Tiny screws holding the handrail fixtures in place. Small identification numbers printed discreetly at the edges of the panels. The faint scuff marks left by countless careful shoes. The wind has changed direction now, brushing your face from the opposite side, bringing with it a slightly different scent from the layers of air below. A maintenance worker in a dark uniform passes you, rolling a compact cart filled with folded cloths and neatly arranged tools. They give you a small nod, but do not stop, their attention mostly on the next section of railing they plan to wipe down and check. As you move closer to the elevator end, the glow from the ground building far below becomes a little brighter in the gaps between the clouds. The strip of light along the floor continues to lead you, steady and unwavering, all the way back to where you first stepped out. When you finally reach the elevator doors again and turn for one last look, the bridge stretches away into the night, a simple line of glass and light, suspended above a sea of moving cloud. Content to lead nowhere in particular, except out into the open sky.